Is the screen visible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Right. So today our lecture is on compiler design. Before going to know about compiler design or what is meant by compiler and how we need to design a compiler, so let's learn about what is meant by language, what is meant by language processing system. To create an executable target program or several, we need several programs for processing those target program. First thing is we required a source program, or we can call it as a source language. So source language is given to the preprocessor, where preprocessor collects the source program modules and macros and libraries, etc. So those preprocessor will gives an output of modified source program. So that is given to a compiler. So compiler will compiles and generates a target assembly language program. So then that particular assembly level program is given to an assembler for generating the relocatable machine code, right? So then these relocatable machine code is given to the linker or loader for generating your target machine code. So this entire structure of representing a target processing system will, which we call it as a language processing system. That is, whenever we are supposed to write a source program, so that should be compiled and it should generate a output. So the operation between writing a program and generating an output is happened through a target machine code. Fine. So for creating your target machine code, so all the steps are mandate, right? All these steps are mandate. So that is, the source program is given to the preprocessor. Preprocessor gives the output to the compiler. Compiler will give output to the assembler. Assembler will generate an output and given to the linker or loader. And finally, linker or loader, which generates target machine with the help of some library files. Fine. So this is the thing what generally happening with a language processing system. So here we have different stages, like what is meant by preprocessor, fine, what is meant by compiler, so what is meant by assembler, so what is meant by linker or loader. So a preprocessor is a module or is a type of a program, is an inbuilt program where it collects the different source programs, just different type of modules, different types of macros, so etc. Fine. See what is meant by compiler. Compiler is a language translator which converts high level program to machine level program. So we can also call it as a type of a assembly language program. Compiler will takes input. Compiler will takes input of a particular source program and compiles it and generates a target assembly program. Fine. Right. So afterwards, the linker, the assembler will generate a relocatable machine code. So here what is meant by relocatable machine code? So this relocatable machine code, which is a machine understandable code, and that machine understandable code varies from one particular machine to another particular machine. So but this compiler which helps us to relocate the machine code according to the system. And so that relocatable machine code is given to the linker or loader to generate the target machine code. See, there are different types of source programs available in today's market, just like C, C++, Java, Python, and all. Right? So all these we call it as a source programs. C is a type of a source program. C++ is a type of a source program. Java, object-oriented programming through Java, is a type of a source program. So that particular source program is given to the preprocessor for attaching different type of modules, macros, and all. So then that particular program is given to the compiler, and compiler will generate a target machine code directly, but indirectly it is linked with these two. Right? See, actually, we call a compiler as a language translator. Right? So that translates job is creating a target assembly program and creating a relocatable machine code. And finally, it will gives an output of target machine code. So this we call it as a general language processing system. See, as we know about C is a programming language, C++ is a programming language, Java is also a programming language. So each and every programming language will have different type of preprocessors, and that each and every programming language is having a separate compiler. So C and C++ will have a common compiler. C and C++ will have a common compiler, right? And Java is have another compiler, right? C++ will have a common compiler. Java is having another compiler. But each and every programming language surely has a compiler. So compiler translate the source program, or we can call it as a high-level program, into target program or target code. Fine? Right. So if we talk about C and C++ compiler, C compiler, so the outcome generated by the C and C++ compiler, we call it as .obj file or .exe file, object file or executable file. See, the target code generated by our Java is .class file. .class file. Right? See what this target, see, the C compiler generates a target code as .obj file or .exe file. The target code generated by Java programming language is .class file. What actually this .class files or .exe files consist of? Machine understandable code. .class file or .obj or .exe file actually consists of machine understandable code. So the final definition of a compiler is a language translator which converts the source program into target machine code, or simply we can call it as machine code. Right. So coming towards the main introduction of compiler design, in order to reduce the complexity of designing and building computers, nearly all of these are made to execute relatively some sort of simple commands. Right? So a program for a compiler must be built by combining these very simple commands into a program, in which we call it as a machine language. Right? So general speaking language is called a common language. So system understanding language is called target language or machine language. Right? See, for understanding those machine language, we need to follow some sort of simple commands which we need to help the machine to understand the code. Right? So for that, most of the programming languages what we are learned or we are learning today all are high-level programming languages. But this language can be very different from the machine language that the computer can execute. See, this high-level language is understandable by the professionals. See, for example, we are students or we are faculty, we know about a different type of programming languages like C, C++, Java and all. But a common person who's not professional in this particular technical terms, so for them also this programming language will be a very strange, like a machine. So even machine doesn't understand the high level programming language, just those who are not having idea like C, C++ and all. So we need to train the machine, or we need to give some sort of commands to the machine to understand the program. So that particular understanding, which we call it as a target code. So that particular target code which helps the computer to understand what we wrote in the high level programming language. Right? So most programming is done using high-level programming language itself, but this language can be very different from what machine can able to understand and execute. So for understanding this high level program by the machine, we require some sort of communication information that we call it as a target code. So for that sake, we require a compiler for making your machine comfortable with the task or with the high level programming language. We require some sort of platform. We call such platform as a compiler. So using a high level language for programming has a large impact on how fast programming can be developed. See, as different types of programming languages are available in the market, but we prefer only some programming languages. See, on what basis we opt that particular programming languages, how fast it execute and how much less space it occupies. So only on those two aspects we opt the programming language, right? How fast it executes the program and generates the output, and how much memory or how much space it occupies less. Well, so compared to machine language, the notation used by the programming language is very closer to the way humans think about the problem. Right, so the compiler can spot some obvious programming mistakes, as a different type of programming language is efficient in some concepts, and some programming languages drawback in some particular concepts. So likewise, each and every programming language compiler has a different type of programming mistakes. Programs written in high level language tend to be shorter than equivalent program written in machine language. Obviously, for example, so whenever we wrote some program in Java, we compiled it with a command called Java C. Is it right or not? So whenever we try to compile our Java program with the command called Java C, so we'll get a file. We'll get a file called .class file. We'll get a file called .class file. See what this .class file consists of actually. .class will actually consist of target code. So the target code is nothing but a machine understandable code. So we have a chance to open those .class file. So what actually the .class file consists of? It consists of different type of symbols. So whenever you saw some sort of programming languages .class files or exe files or object files, what we can see there is, so it is completely machine understandable code, right? See, whenever we compile a program called, for example, we have a program called x.java. So whenever we compile this particular program with Java C, x.java, so then automatically a .class file will be created. So x.class file will be created. Right, so this .class file consists of your target or machine code. Target code or machine code. Fine. See, this machine code is a machine understandable code which is not understandable by us. See, it consists of symbols like this. So it is not possible for us to understand what is this small box or some tile symbol or percentile symbol, comma symbol, and all. So your target code or machine code consists of this type of symbols. See, not only .class file, if we take a program in C, just like x.c, if we execute it with Alt F9, right, automatically a .exe file will be created. So if we open this particular .exe file, surely it also consists of some sort of machine understandable code in this particular format, which is not understandable by us, but surely it is understandable by the machine. Right? Fine. So programs written in high-level language tend to be shorter than equivalent programming language written in machine language. Right? See, if we write some thousands and thousands of high-level language code, whenever we compile it, so not that much amount of lines of code is available in our machine language. Fine. So it will machine level language is a little bit shorter one. Right? Fine. And second thing is, so if we write one type of code in one particular language, if we choose the same code in some other particular language, so almost the steps required to write one particular program in one particular language is more, and another particular language, the lines of code may be less. Fine, right? So the time taken to execute one particular program in one programming language will may or may not be equivalent to the some other programming language for the same code. Fine. So the same program can be compiled to many different machine languages and hence be brought to run on many different machines. See, whenever we talk with a programming language called C, so C doesn't have a chance to execute the code which we runs on one particular machine, and if it doesn't have a chance to execute the same program on another machine without running it. Right? But we have a chance of doing the same concept in Java. So Java programming language is platform independent. Yes, platform independent. See, as one of the important feature of Java is platform independent. So platform independent is, so it doesn't depends on one particular operating system. It is architecturally neutral. So it gives a chance for each and every operating system to run the same Java program. Right? So we also call write once, execute many. Right? So if we write that program in one particular operating system, we can run on many different machines. So it is possible with that Java programming language. So, but it is not possible with C. But now advanced C version helps us to run on many different machines. As technology varies, so C is going back towards the picture, but C is also having such a advantage of to run their program on many different machines. Right. So now coming towards the compiler, a compiler is a translator or a language translator, a program written in high-level language that is suitable for the human programmers into low-level machine language that requires by the computer. So a compiler is a language translator, right, or a language translator which translate a program written in high-level programming language. See, as we know that high-level programming languages are C, C++, Java, all those things are high-level programming language. So that is suitable for human programmers, right? As we are all human programmers into low-level machine language. So machine language is nothing but machine understandable language. So what your compiler actually requires. Right? So spots and reports obvious programming mistakes. So with this, obviously, we have some sort of mistakes and reports. So for example, if we are writing a particular program, if we miss to keep semicolon, or if we miss to use double quotes, or if we miss to use commas and all, so all these things are programmer mistakes, but not the compiler mistakes, right? See, whenever a particular source program is given to a compiler, surely it will generate a target program. So here this target program is machine understandable code, or we can also call it as machine language, or we can call it as executable code. So we have different phases about your target program. We can call it as machine code, we can call it as executable code, or we can call it as machine understandable code or not. Right. See how to run a target program. So if a target program is an executable machine language program, it can then be called by the user to process the input and produce the output. Right? See, for this target program is generated by a compiler, right? See, for this target program, we need to give output, and this target program itself gives the output. Fine, target program only gives the output. So if there is any type of errors or human-made mistakes available in your target code, so then obviously output will not be accurate, or there may be a chance of not getting the exact output. Right? So if the desired outcome of a particular program completely depends on the target program. If we did anything wrong in our source program, right? If we did anything wrong in our source program, see, the wrong input leads to the wrong target code. Obviously, wrong target code leads to the wrong output. So before going to write any particular program, so we need to check the programmer errors repeatedly, right? So if we give correct source code, obviously we'll get correct target program, and obviously we'll get correct output. So now, so whenever we already we have two siblings, so that is compiler and interpreter. So we now only talked about compiler. So compiler is a language translator which converts source program or high level program into target program, right? So likewise, we have another sibling of compiler is interpreter. An interpreter is another way of implementing a programming language or a language processing system. An interpreter is another way of implementing your language processing system. So interpreter shares many aspects like compiler, lexical, parsing, type checking, different. But instead of producing a target program as a translation, an interpreter appears to directly execute the operation specified in the source program as inputs supplied to the user. So that is, so compiler will give the entire outcome as at end, right? So if we give input, so compiler compiles the program and generates the output at an end, at the end. But coming towards the interpreter, so it will give output at after compiling each and every statement. See, for suppose if a program has 10 statements, so compiler will give output for those 10 statements at the end. But coming towards the interpreter will give output of each and every statement at an instance. At the step itself, interpreter will directly execute the particular statement or a command and they show the output. So that's the speciality of an interpreter. So both are awesome, right? So compiler overall source code is executed and it shows at an instance. So compiler will be a little bit faster. So interpreter will execute each and every statement at an instance and it generates the output and then it goes for the next line. Right? So that's the speciality of an interpreter. Instead of producing a target program as a translator, an interpreter appears to directly execute the operation specified in the source program on inputs supplied by the user. So what is the difference between compiler and interpreter? An interpreter may need to process the same piece of the syntax tree many times. Interpreter is slower executing a compiled program. Obviously, what I said is prior. So interpreter will takes input, will take input and generates output at an instance or at the step itself. Right? See, after completion of those steps, generating output and then it comes for the next step. But compiler will execute the overall program and it will generate the output at the end. But interpreter generates output at each and after compiling of or after executing of each and every statement. An interpreter executes the source program statement by statement, right? So interpreter executes your source program statement by statement by giving output at an instant. At an instance. So it will generate output at an instance and then it goes for the second statement. It can usually use better error diagnostics than the compiler, but it is slower. But compiler will execute the overall program at an instance and it will generate the output. So compiler is faster. Right, coming towards the exact concept of a compiler, structure of a compiler. So as we know that compiler is a language translator. Compiler is a language translator which converts which converts source program or high level language to machine level language or target code. Right. See, what are the phases or what are the inner structure of a compiler? See what actually a compiler consists of. So as we know, only one superb definition that it converts the program, high-level program, and it will generate the target code. So after compilation, directly we should run the program and we will get the output. So this is the stuff what we know actually. Is it right? Right? So whenever we give some sort of input to the compiler as a source program, it will generate a target code or machine code. So then we after compiling it, we need to run the program. So that's the final step. We need to run the program. After running your program, we'll get the output. But what are all the inner steps for compiling your program, or what are the inner steps that leads to execute your program and to generate the output? So now we are talking about the inner phases of a compiler. See, there are 6 phases of a compiler. 6 phases of a compiler. So someone will say, so there are 7 phases of a compiler, right? 6 or 7 phases of a compiler. So I'll say why 6 phases, or someone will call it as a 7 phases, right? So the first phase we call it as lexical analyzer. First phase is lexical analyzer. Second phase is syntax analyzer. Third phase is semantic analyzer. Fourth phase is intermediate code generator. And fifth phase is machine independent code optimizer. And sixth phase is code generator. So in some people will say that, so code generator or machine dependent code optimizer, both the things are same. Both the things are comes under one block called code generator. See, so the outcome will be target machine code itself. So here also the outcome will be target machine code itself. So someone will match these two blocks. So obviously then how many blocks or how many phases we have? Phase 1 lexical analyzer, phase 2 syntax analyzer, phase 3 semantic analyzer, phase 4 intermediate code generator, phase 5 machine independent code optimizer, phase 6 code generator. So based on this, I'll call we have 6 phases. By combining these two in one phase, that is 6th phase, or someone will call it as a 7th phase. Fine. See, totally we have 6 different phases of compiler: lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, code optimizer, and code generator. So each and every phase is very, very important for a compiler. So if one particular stops executing its job, then compiler surely doesn't give the accuracy, or compiler doesn't works when any one of the phases not properly working. Right. See, fine. So all this entire block or entire phases, we call it as a compiler. See how many phases we have? 6. First phase is lexical analyzer. Second phase is syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, code optimizer, code generator. Right? So the first one, lexical analyzer, the job of lexical analyzer is dividing into tokens. Then the job of syntax analyzer, producing a tree structure of a particular program. Semantic analyzer, so which checks your syntax. Type checking will be done by your semantic analyzer. So determining if your program violates certain consistency requirements of variables used but not declared, so any boolean values of a function, somewhat like that. Right. Next one, intermediate code generator. So it translate your code in terms of assembly level language. Right? It translate your code in terms of assembly level language. See, you're translating the intermediate representation, which is nothing but your machine level language, right? Intermediate language to assembly level language, right? So here, intermediate code is a super phase, is a very good phase where it with this intermediate code will be in terms of assembly level language, right? So this assembly level language is then given to your code generator for reducing the number of lines of code. See, translating the intermediate language in intermediate code generator to assembly level language. So this is a textual representation of your machine code. So for suppose if we use addition symbol in our programming language, then it will be represented by plus. But in assembly level language, we need to write it as add. For subtraction, we'll keep minus. But in assembly level language, we use sub. For multiplication, we use star symbol. Here, we need to use a keyword called mul. So that's why a textual representation of a machine code for different types of machine architectures. And finally, translating the assembly code into the binary representation and address of different type of variables and functions are determined by your code generator or optimized code generator. Fine. Optimized code generator. Next, see, each and every phase are linked with each other. So lexical analyzer gives its output to the syntax analyzer. Syntax analyzer gives output to the semantic analyzer. Semantic analyzer gives output to the intermediate code generator. And intermediate code generator gives the output to the code optimizer. Code optimizer will gives output to the code generator. Right. See, all these phases are directly linked with a symbol table. All these phases are directly linked with the symbol table. What is meant by symbol table actually? So symbol table is a data structure where it holds all the information about your program directly. Right? So symbol table will store all the information about your source program. Right. See, here we came across a word called character stream, right? Character stream. So what is meant by character stream? Which is nothing but our source language. Right? See, all our source code will be appeared in terms of strings, right? Strings, character streams, right? So source language, or we can call it as high level language. So that high level language will be given to your lexical analyzer. Lexical analyzer. So that is the first phase of compiler. So remind that. So there are 6 different phases of compilers. So if in your examination, how many phases of compilers are there? If they gave 6, 7, 8, 9, so blindly go for 6, right? But blindly go for 6, or else, so in case there is no 6, so 7, 8, 9, then go for 7, right? Go for 7. So each and every phase is very, very important phase. Fine. So all these phases are directly linked with the concept called symbol table. Symbol table is a data structure where it stores each and every information about your source code. Right? So if you keep like this, int a comma b. So symbol table store int in data types. Int in data types. So a b in variable part. So it consists of different type of fields. Later I'll show you. So if data types, it will store int. So in variables it stores a b like this. Right? So your symbol table will hold all the data about your source code. Right. So these are 6 different or 7 phases of a compiler. Fine. So the first phase is lexical analyzer. The first phase is lexical analyzer. So lexical analyzer take input as a source code and gives outputs as tokens or token streams. Syntax analyzer, uh, lexical analyzer takes input as source language or high level language or source code and broke those source code into tokens or token streams. Right, and the input for the next phase is syntax analyzer. The input for your syntax analyzer is the outcome of lexical analyzer. So that is the tokens is the input for your syntax analyzer. The output of lexical analyzer is tokens, and the same tokens will be the input for your syntax analyzer. Right, the syntax analyzer take the tokens from the lexical analyzer and gives an output as a tree, syntax tree. Right, so it gives output as a tree structure. Right, so the input of your semantic analyzer is the outcome of your syntax analyzer, that is syntax tree. Right, so here we also call it as a syntax tree or parse tree or parse tree. So the input for your syntax analyzer is, semantic analyzer is the syntax tree or parse tree, and the outcome of your semantic analyzer is syntax tree or annotated syntax tree. We call it as annotated syntax tree or annotated parse tree. Next, the input for your intermediate code generator is outcome of your semantic analyzer, that is annotated parse tree or syntax tree, that is given to your intermediate code generator. So intermediate code generator gives output as intermediate representation. Actually, intermediate code has different types, that is it will divides the data into quadruples, triples, indirect triples, and somewhat like that in terms of assembly level representation. Right, so the intermediate code outcome is intermediate representation itself. And so the next phase is machine dependent code optimizer, that is, so the assembly level code will be optimized. Right, the assembly level code will be optimized. So the input for your machine dependent code optimizer is, so the assembly level language or the assembly level code generated by your intermediate code generator. So then the machine independent code optimizer generates an output of same. So here it optimizes the assembly level code, and it again generates the same assembly level optimized assembly level code. Then that is given to your code generator for generating your target machine code. Right, and here in 6th phase itself we can go for a machine dependent code optimizer, or we can simply add another phase for your machine independent code optimizer, where it generates the optimized target machine code. Optimized target machine code. See, here there will be theoretical stream, that is outcome of one phase will be the income for your second phase. So likewise, finally we'll get a target machine code. Right, so coming towards this phases of a compiler, the first phase we call it as a lexical analyzer, right? Second phase, syntax analyzer. Third phase, semantic analyzer. Fourth phase, intermediate code generator. Fifth phase, code optimizer. Sixth phase, code generator. Right, and sixth phase is our peephole optimizer, or we can call it as a machine dependent code optimizer. See, first one, programmer. So programmer will give source code, or we can call it as source code producer is our programmer. So output will be depends upon the final target code. For example, this will be the statement written by the programmer, A equal to B plus C. So the first phase we call it as a lexical analyzer. We also call it as a scanner. We also call lexical analyzer as a scanner. So this is a bit what I encounters in GATE. So we also call lexical analyzer as scanner, parser, analyzer, or somehow like that they'll ask. Right? We also call lexical analyzer as a scanner. See, the outcome of scanner is token strings. So it will divide your input in terms of tokens. It will divide input in terms of tokens, right? So if the input is a equal to b plus c, a is a token, equal to is a token, b is a token, plus is a token, c is a token, and semicolon is a token. So how many number of tokens are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, for this particular statement, the number of tokens is 6. Right? So we also call compiler as a language translator. Among that, we have how many phases? How many phases? 6 or 7 phases. Right? So first phase is scanner, or sorry, first phase is lexical analyzer. We also call lexical analyzer as a scanner. Second phase is syntax analyzer. We also call it as parser. Third phase is semantic analyzer. And fourth phase is intermediate code generator. Fifth phase is optimizer. Sixth phase is code generator. Or else, so we can also call the seventh phase as a peephole optimizer or machine dependent code optimizer. Right. So your first phase is scanner phase. So which the outcome will be in terms of tokens, right? So here A equal to B plus C, A equal to B plus C. So each and every operand is a token. Each and every operator is a token. So here A is a token, equal to is a token, plus B, C, semicolon, all these things are tokens. Fine. Then, so this particular thing will be given to your next phase is syntax analysis phase. So we also call the syntax analysis phase as a parser phase, right? So parser which performs syntax analysis based on the program of the programming language. So the outcome will be a what I said parse tree or abstract syntax tree. See how it will be. See. So here we go with end of the statement semicolon. Right, semicolon. So as we know how we need to construct a tree. So operands will be at your leaf nodes and operator will be at your internal nodes. So equal to, so A plus B, C, right? So the value of B, C is added and the resultant will be equalized for A. For example, A value 9, B value B value 9, C value 9. So the total value will be 18. So A equal to 18. So this is the outcome of this particular statement and the value of A is 18 for suppose. See, this tree structure is represented with the help of your parser. Next, semantic analyzer. So semantic analyzer phase, we go for type checking. Typecasting and type checking will be done at your semantic analyzer phase. So here the outcome will be annotated parse tree or abstract syntax tree. So what is meant by annotated parse tree? See, if I give value for this B as 9, so it will check whether B belongs to the integer type or character type or floating point type or long type, double type, whatever the type. So it will check. So the value what we assign for B is a valid one or not. Right? So such type of type checking, syntax checking or type checking, typecasting will be done with your semantic analyzer phase. And next phase is intermediate code generator. So it generates different types of codes. For suppose it consists of 3 address code, 4 address code, or quadruples, triples, indirect triples. See, all this different type of representations will be available in our 3 address code. See here, so for suppose into 3 address code, that is, so it should have 3 addresses. So T1, C, T2. So the for suppose if we want to perform addition, so what we need to do? So the value in T1, right? Sorry, the value in C and the value in T2 should be added, and the resultant should be stored in T1. Sorry, it doesn't belongs to the right hand representation. It belongs to it doesn't belong to left hand representation. It belongs to right hand representation. That is, so the value of T1 is added to value in C, and the resultant is stored in T2. So now the value of T2 is assigned to A, right? Right. So that is, so in this particular first step, see, according to this particular example, so the value of B is stored in T1. The value of B is directly stored in T1, right? So for suppose value of B is 9, so T1 is 9. Now, now, so the value of T1 is 9 added with the value of C. What will be the value of C? 9. So 9 plus 9, 18. So that will be stored in T2. So now T2 consists of 18. Now T2 is assigned to A. So now what will be the value of A? 18. So this representation, which we call it as 3 address code, we have different reps, quadruples, triples, indirect triples. See, all the stuff that we are going to learn in our intermediate code generator. And coming towards your optimizer, so see here it takes 3 steps for your intermediate code, but here only 2 steps. Directly B value is stored in T1, and T1 is stored with any particular number, and the value will be directly stored in A, right? So here also we prefer 3 address code, quadruples, triples, or any indirect triples, right? So so coming towards your code generator, so here we need to prefer some sort of assembly code, right? Some sort of assembly code. See here, we can use this type of symbols. So it is also a type of address representation, 3 address code representation. Here also we can opt it as in general we can call it as a type of a assembly code. But here this assembly code will be like this. So we need to use some sort of words called move, add, right? So subtraction, for multiplication we use mul. So like this, what I preached in the concept of, see here what I said in code generator, right? So in code generator, so we need to use this type of symbols and all, right? So this type of assembly code and all, right? So move, add, move, that is the value. This is a number which should be stored in R1. Then the value of R2 should be added with R1, right? And then the value of the value of R1 is added with R2, and the resultant will be stored in R2. Now the R2 value will be stored in A. That is R1 is equal to 2.3. So add the value of R2 with R1. For suppose R2 is equal to 2. So add 2, 2.3, 4.3 should be stored in R2. And now the R2 value should be moved to A. So this is your code optimizer and code generator. And we have further optimizer is peephole optimizer. So peephole is optimizer is also a type of a type of an optimizer for reducing the code generated target code to still optimized, right? So here we required three statements for code optimizer. So here in peephole optimizer we again reduce this to 2, right? So grouping of phases. So the first, so when I said that, so we have 6 phases of compiler. So here we need to group the phases. So there are, we call this first 3 phases as analysis phase, or we can call it as front end of a compiler. And remaining 3 phases or 4 phases, we call it as back end of a compiler, or we can call it as synthesis phase. Right? See, the front compiler, front and backends. Front end, we call it as analysis phase. It is completely machine independent. So that is our lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer comes under your front end, intermediate code generator, code optimizer, code generator, or peephole optimizer, or machine dependent code optimizer, whatever comes under your machine dependent uh, or sorry, it comes under your back end of a compiler, or we can call it as a synthesis phase, and it is completely machine dependent. Right? So here we need to know about, you can expect this in your gate, that is, see how many phases of a compilers are there, what we call that front end phase as, or what we call this back end phase as, is analysis phase comes under machine dependent or machine independent, somewhat like that you can expect a bit from this. And coming towards your passes, so that is, what is meant by pass? A collection of phases is done only once, so we call it as single pass. So if the collection of phases will be done by multiple times, see, if we execute your one all program at an instance, which we call it as single pass. So if we recompile it for more than one, then we call it as multiple pass or multi pass. Right? So usually every programming language requires, so everything should be defined before being used in a source program. So, but coming towards a multiple pass, compiler may have to keep entire program representation in memory for doing or for compiling your program for multiple times. Right. So, this is a very important example of your compiler. See, first, our statement is position is equal to initial plus rate into 60. So this is your statement, or we can call it as an expression. So position equal to initial plus rate into 60. See, all those things is readily available in a symbol table. I said that symbol table is a data structure where it stores all the information about your source program. See, position is a variable stored, is a variable, and coming towards your 60 is a constant. Right? 60 is a constant. So lexical analyzer divides this entire statement into tokens. The outcome of this particular statement should be divided into tokens. So see, position is an identifier, or we can call it as a variable. Right? So the first variable in your statement is position. So compiler will treat that position variable is a first identifier in my statement. So kabatti, so that's why it will represent like this: id comma 1, id comma 1. So that is the first identifier available in this particular statement. And coming towards your operator will be stored inside your operator part. Operator will be stored in your operator part. Next, initial. So initial is a variable, so as we know that, but compiler will treat it as a second identifier, id comma 2. Next, again, plus is the next operator available in a statement. Next, rate. So rate is a third identifier variable available, so compiler will treat it as a third identifier, id comma 3. Next statement is multiplication symbol. Right? So that will be stored inside your operator part. Next one is constant. So the value constant is equal to 60. So constant part will be stored in one more column with a number called 60. See how your lexical analyzer divides the statement in terms of tokens. Fine. Right. So next, so the outcome of this particular lexical analyzer is token. So that divided token is directly given to the divided token is directly given to the syntax analyzer. Syntax analyzer will take those tokens and generate a parse tree. It will give outcome as a tree. Right? See here how it will be. Operator should be at your internal part. Leaf node should be your identifiers or variables or literals. We can call it as terminals, whatever. Right? So equal to. Right? So what will be the left side? Position equal to. Right? So according to the operator precedence, first preference will be given for multiplication. Right? So here we need to follow bottom up approach. Later I'll say what is the difference between top down and bottom up. See here, first these two part will be multiplied, right? So value of ID3 is multiplied with 60 and the resultant will be added to identifier 2 and those entire result will be stored in identifier 1 for this. See, this is the first subtree and this is your second subtree and this is your overall tree. Right. So this is how your syntax analyzer phase generates a parse tree. And next one is your semantic analyzer. The outcome of your syntax analyzer will given to the semantic analyzer. Semantic analyzer will give values for your variables, values for your identifiers. So here, what is the value? Int to float. For suppose if we gave any value for this identifier as a floating type or int type, whatever, right? So it will convert in terms of int to float. Value 60 is multiplied with the ID3, right? And the resultant will be stored here, and the resultant of this value added with this ID2, and the resultant will be stored in ID1. So here we need to check the type casting or type conversion. So 60, for example, it is an integer type. Fine, no problem. If ID1, ID2, ID3 are of which type? So ID1 is of integer type, no problem. ID2, ID1 of floating point type, then what are the conversion that we need to take? See, all the stuff should be done. Fine. So the outcome of the semantic analyzer will be given to your intermediate code generator. Right? So in intermediate code generator, we'll take the help of temporary variables. So simply, that's why I call it as a type of assembly level language. Right? But it is not a complete assembly level language. So it will take the help of temporary variables. Right? See, first we need to store the value of 60 in your temporary variable T1. Then, so multiply the value of T1 with the value in your ID3. That will be stored in your ID2. So all those things which we call it as a 3 address code. See here, address 1, address 2, address 3. So likewise. And finally, the resultant will be stored in ID1. So this is your intermediate code. And finally, those intermediate code will be given to your code optimizer. So your code optimizer will optimize this code. See here we have 4 statements. So it is optimized into 2 statements. Then this will be given to your code generator. Code generator, C is completely assembly level language. Right? So code generator will generate assembly code like so load your file and multiply, then load, then add, so then store. So all those things are assembly level code. So finally, your code generator will give this type of assembly code or optimized assembly code. So this is about your phases of compiler. Right? Phase of compiler with its outcome. See, each and every phase is directly related with the symbol table. See, if we what are the tasks that we did at each and every stage, so will be known to the symbol table. So next, symbol table management. See how we need to maintain the symbol table. Right, symbol table is a data structure containing a record of each and every variable name with fields of their attributes of the name. So storage allocated for a name, its type, scope, bar in the program, its value may be used. And for procedure names, so different type numbers, arguments, the methods that we are passing, and different types of return types, all those stuff will be maintained by the symbol table, what I said now. So the data structure should be designed to allow the compiler to find the record of each and every variable name quickly, to store or retrieve the data from that record quickly. See, for doing this type of job very efficiently, we require a storage. So we call the storage as a symbol table. Right. So, so each and every phase in your GATE exam, each and every phase have an equal weightage. So maximum questions from lexical, syntax, and semantic itself. So the expected question from this lexical analysis part is, so if they'll give a statement and they'll ask, so number of tokens available in this particular statement, right? For suppose, for suppose, for suppose, if we have a statement called printf, so %d, comma, I. So it is a statement. So how many number of tokens that will be generated by a compiler? So how many number of tokens that a compiler will generate for this particular statement? So printf is a statement. So the token is 1, and %d is a token which includes within double quotes. So it is your token 2. Sorry, printf is a inbuilt keyword, token number 1. So this one, open parenthesis, is a token number 2. So the thing which enclosed in double quotes string, that is token number 3, comma is a token number 4, right? I is a token number 5, open parenthesis is a token number 6, and semicolon is token number 7. So 7 tokens will be generated by a lexical analyzer for this particular statement, right? So such type of bits will be asked in your examination. That may be a chance of asking such sort of bits and all. Okay, right. Fine. In next class, I'll explain about, so what are the internal concepts comes under your lexical and syntax analysis phase. And later on, I'll discuss about semantic analyzer. Later on, I'll discuss about code optimizer and code generator. Thank you.